speaking of Labor and Labor governments, so there's 19 or 20 days now, and the government has to, it thinks it has to get this pandemic management bill sorted out. Because if it doesn't, then no one can tell you to wear a mask anywhere. No one can tell you to isolate at home. No one can tell you to do a QR code check-in. All those powers disappear. So how are the negotiations going? Stephanie Wacklewick is our state politics reporter. She joins us now. Stephanie, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Tom.
So what is happening?
Well, basically, they're no closer, no further to an agreement. The government's been actively negotiating with two members of the crossbench. They are Sustainable Australia MP Clifford Hayes and Transport Matters MP Rod Barton. Now, they met with the government last night with their list of proposed amendments. So they basically discussed how they'd work and I guess sort of went through different scenarios. They say the government's been receptive to what they're putting forward. They're willing to compromise on some measures, but they say they're not going to bend as such or be led down a road they don't want to go.
Remember the old saying, Stephanie, the reed that won't bend will break.
Yes.
Yes. So let's say Rod Barton and Transport Matters. Now, would he get asked for something in return? Like, could he say, get rid of all the bike tracks and have more roads for cars instead?
I mean, potentially. I mean, that's how deals are reached. But we're not hearing any of that at the moment. Both sides everything's still on the table.
Right.
And those conversations will continue over the weekend.
Now, from what I've heard, there was a lot of upsettedness from all the MPs who weren't talked to before. So previously it was all about Samantha Ratnam and Fiona Patton and Andy Medic, and suddenly Adam Somyurek reappeared and said, I'm voting against it. All these other independent MPs had to be spoken to. Are they, peed off with the government for not talking to them before things hit the crisis mode? Yeah,
they are. And this has been, I guess, this has been an issue all along. The government was relying on these three crossbenchers, and now, as you say, one more has come on board and has thrown everything into disarray. And it seems like the government may not have learned that lesson yet, because it's now negotiating with these two crossbench MPs, but they're not sort of budging either.
No.
This afternoon there was another briefing. It wasn't a negotiation, but a briefing with government advisors and all upper house independent MPs. They sort of went through the bill, and from those that were in the meeting, I've been told government was sort of spruiking the draft amendments, and they had a bit of a Q&A. So it does look like the government is now trying to find support in those other crossbench MPs.
And what about Tony? He just asserted before that the Premier hasn't been directly involved. It's all up to, I guess, Martin Foley or someone. But will the Premier get wheeled into the room at some stage?
No, well, the bill's currently before the upper house, and the Premier's a member of the lower house.
Yeah, but he's the Premier.
Well, this is parliamentary procedure, Tom.
All right, thank you, Stephanie. Stephanie Wacklewick, 3AW State Political Reporter. Okay, 133693 is the number to call. It's pretty interesting, this, because, again, let's just say the government can't get the upper house to agree. Then all the rules that we've been labouring under, like the one that says that you have to stay at home if you have a positive test, or you have to wear a mask on public transport, or you have to do a QR code check-in everywhere, or that, businesses have to check people's vaccination certificates, all of that disappears out the window. And it could happen as soon as 11:59 p.m. on December the 15th, which, as I said, is only 19, 20 days away.